Hello, everyone, and welcome back to A Black Girl's Odyssey. I'm your hostess, Breeze, and today I'm going to be talking about 5 ways that you can have a more enjoyable flight when you're flying to your destination. But first things first, I need you to hit that like and subscribe button. I also need you to chime my notification bell so you will be aware of any videos I upload about my adventures in traveling. So, as we all know, our country, our world is going through a very turbulent time right now, but that does not necessarily mean that you still cannot travel, if not internationally, at least domestically. And these tips are mainly for a person when they're taking a flight, but this also can apply to any mode of transportation, whether you're in a car, a train, a bus, a cruise, or any other mode of transportation. So I'm going to go ahead and give you my 5 tips on how I make a flight for myself more comfortable. Of course, we all cannot afford to fly first class every time we take a flight or at all. If you don't know, first class tickets can be very expensive. I price them and they can be very outrageous. Even business class can be like top of the line. And I don't necessarily have the money to invest in that. And so I have to mostly and mainly, like just about most of the population, book either coach or economy class. And so while I'm back there, I try to make my flights as comfortable as possible. And these are the tips that I do to make my flight more comfortable for me. So we're going to start off with number 5, and that is to make sure that you sit in the back of the plane. I know you don't want to sit in the back of the plane. It's not ideal, especially when you're ready to get off that plane. You got so many people ahead of you when you are trying to deboard, trying to get their luggage from the overhead bins, trying to gather up children, belongings, all kind of stuff. And it can be a really long time before you deboard the plane if you're sitting all the way in the back. However, when I am sitting back there, I'm closer to the restroom. I don't have to have so many people bypass me to get to the restroom. The flight attendants are more welcoming and more willing to give you stuff if you're sitting all the way to the back of the plane because they don't have to go so far to retrieve the things or the items that you need while you're on the plane. And also, too, it seems like for me, I'm away from the noise. Although the noise is coming in that direction, I feel like I don't hear as much noise when I sit in the back of the plane. And sometimes, too, because people don't like to sit in the back, a lot of times there's more space. Sometimes I'll have a whole row to myself, especially if I request it from the flight attendant. I'll have a whole row to myself and I can prop my legs up or I can use the extra seating to put my stuff there. And it just works out better for me, most specifically in international flights. As you probably may be aware by now, I usually fly Southwest domestically, and Southwest has changed their seating policy. So I'm probably going to start going back to the back of the plane now and sitting back there. I also found this article on time.com that says that actually sitting in the back of the plane is most safer than sitting in any other part of the plane. So that may be something you want to consider too. God forbid, if anything should happen, you are most safer being in the back of the plane than being in any other part of the plane. So these are all things to consider when you're flying. It's just better overall. And so I highly recommend that you sit in the back of the plane if possible for a more comfortable, enjoyable experience. That's the least that you can do if you can't book yourself a first class or business class ticket. That's the next best thing. So I highly recommend it, especially if you are a solo traveler like me. I like the, I guess, false sense of privacy. And so I just like to sit in the far back. So that's my 5th tip to you, to make sure that if you get a chance to fly, that you sit to the back of the plane. Okay, my 4th tip for you about preparing for a flight, especially a long flight, is to make sure that you charge all of your electronic devices, cell phones, laptops, MP3 players, if you still use them. I still use mine. All that. And the reason why I still use an MP3 player because I just mainly want to listen to music when I'm flying, and I don't necessarily think it makes sense to purchase Wi-Fi when I can just listen to my MP3 player for free. Some of these airlines now are giving you complimentary Wi-Fi, especially if you're a member of the airlines. But I rather just use my MP3 player. It's just easier for me. But that's a little side note there. But yeah, make sure you charge everything. These airports also have outlets on the plane now, but depends on when you're sitting. Sometimes they don't always work. And if they don't work, it could be a very long time before you either get to another outlet, or you may have to bypass people to use an outlet. It can be frustrating. And so it's best that you just go ahead and charge all your electronic devices. Another thing that's also smart with this is to bring along a portable charging station. I have one my mother gave to me one year, and I'm telling you that thing is a lifesaver. I charge it right before I go on my trip, along with all my other electronic devices, and I use it in case I need it, in case the port doesn't work on the plane or the train or wherever type of mode of transportation that you're using. And it helps out a great deal. So that may be something that you want to may consider before you take a trip, is to get one of those portable charging devices. They are a lifesaver, especially if you get a good quality one. And so it just makes for a better trip, and you won't be as cranky if you cannot access an outlet of any kind until you land or until you get to the airport, or perhaps maybe even your final destination. And I'm telling you, if you are looking to get like a Lyft or an Uber, once you've deboarded your plane, you do not want to have to wait around to charge up a phone or any other device before you can be able to contact a Lyft or Uber. It's just an added nuisance that you don't need. So make sure that your stuff is charged completely before you board the plane. Okay, so my third tip for a more comfortable flight is to make sure that you're wearing loose fitted and comfortable clothing. Yes, this makes a difference. You want to avoid, especially if you're a woman, anything that can be restrictive. Leggings, tights, tight pants, any of that stuff. You want to make sure you avoid that by a long shot. And that's because when you're trying to get to the bathroom, if you know anything about airplane bathrooms, if you have to use them, I try my best to avoid them. I don't like them. However, if I'm going on a trip that's 4 hours or more, I know I'm going to have to use it at least just once. And I don't want to be struggling in there. I am a full-size girl. And so when I go to the bathroom, I want to make sure my clothes can come down with ease. I don't sit on public toilets. I don't sit on the plane toilet. So I got to make sure that when I go in there, I can be able to squat appropriately. And so with that, I need loose-fitting clothes. So for me, when I fly, I typically try to wear loose fitting pants, and the pants that I usually wear are capri pants. And the reason why is because they're usually, for me, they're usually loose in the waist and stomach part, but the leg part is a little bit snug, so I don't have to worry about my pants dragging on that nasty, dirty, plain bathroom floor, or just the aisles itself, or having someone step on it. I don't have to worry about that, so I wear the capri pants. I also try to wear shirts like this that's light and airy, and I'll try to layer. So I'll put like a camisole, like a cotton camisole under a shirt, and then I'll bring on a shirt, maybe long sleeve, maybe quarter length, like what I have on now. And then I'll go ahead and apply a fleece or a sweater that I can zip, unzip, button up, and take off. That way I can have the flexibility and being able to be loose when I want to be on that plane. As far as shoes are concerned, I usually wear sneakers that I can hop in and out of. I always wear socks. When I go through the airport, I wear socks now. I was told that you no longer have to take your shoes off at the airport, but because we've been doing that for so long and I've been traveling when they had this rule, I still make sure that I wear socks and sneakers whenever I go through the airport. So I make sure, of course, my socks are clean, but I make sure that I'm able to jump in and out my shoes when I have to go through the airport. I also am TSA pre-check, so now I definitely don't have to take off my shoes, and that's why I got TSA pre-check, so I won't have to take off my shoes. But just in case you do, you'll be able to jump in and out your shoes freely. If you're going to be on a flight that's going to be more than 4 hours long, of course, keeping your sneakers on that long can be a little bit tiresome and you just want to relax your feet. If you have a feet problem, such as like an odor or a condition, I don't recommend you really take off your shoes. If you do, make sure that you have fresh, clean, new shoes, socks that's fresh and clean, brand new, recommended, and make sure that you try to do what you can to keep that odor down. I don't have that problem. I'm just saying for people who do. I take my shoes off and I leave my socks on and I just like wriggle my feet, and when I go to the bathroom I put my shoes back on, of course, and it just makes me feel just so much better and more comfortable when I'm on the plane. And this is how I do when I'm traveling. You don't want to be squeezed out. First of all, if you're sitting in economy class, you're going to be squeezed because you don't have the extra space that the quality tickets like first class, business class, or economy plus, or whatever they got going on, premium economy. You're not going to have that extra leg room so much, so you're going to be a little bit squished, especially if you have somebody sitting next to you. So you want to make sure that you are as comfortable as you possibly can be. If you're traveling with any bulky items like I said, like a zip up sweater that's bulky or a coat, you want to make sure you put that in an overhead bin if possible, and you want to use like a blanket if you can. If you're doing international flights, they give you a blanket. If you're doing domestic, you probably want to bring your own, or you have to bring your own. So that's something that you want to consider when you're also traveling. So that's something that I highly recommend when you're traveling, whether domestic or internationally. Please wear loose fitting clothes. That will help you make for a much more comfortable flight. So that's my number third tip when traveling, is to wear loose fitted, breathable clothing. So that's that one. My second recommendation, or my second tip for a comfortable flight, is to bring disposable sliders or slippers. I recently started doing this one. When I came back, as you know, in my last video, I spoke about me being over there in Europe, and I told you all about how to make a more, how to prepare for an international flight. This one right here is just how to prepare for any flight, this video. But when I was over there, I realized that it is good to bring like disposable slippers. So in case you don't want to keep putting your sneakers back on, when you have to go to the restroom and such, you can just slide on disposable slippers. And so how this works for me, because I travel a lot and I stay at some pretty nice hotels when I travel, a lot of these hotels provide bedroom slippers for you, like the ones for you to use while you're in the hotel room. Well, I automatically carry my own bedroom slippers that I get from stores like Burlington or TJ Maxx or whatever. And then I use the disposable slippers for the plane. And so I started collecting them and gathering them up. When I'm on the plane, I use them. And when I'm about to get ready to deboard, or when I'm I have left the plane, I dispose of them. I just throw them in the trash. I'm not going to wash them, save them, whatever. I just dispose of them automatically because I'm not going to use them again. It's a lifesaver when you're bouncing back and forth to the restroom or something like that, especially on international or longer flights. You want to be making sure that you're comfortable going back and forth, getting back and forth up, and you use the slippers because, needless to say, those those bathroom stalls, those restrooms on the plane are just nasty. People have done some of probably everything, on those floors, and you just don't know. You don't want to be carrying any germs or bacteria back home with you that you didn't bring with you to begin with. And so you want to leave that where it's at. And the disposable slippers make sense. You probably want to get a plastic bag or Ziploc bag and put them in there when you're finished. And then you can dispose of all that together. I also travel with gloves just in case I have to do something of a task like that. So that's something that I would consider you doing when traveling, is to make sure that you have some disposable slippers or sliders, something that you don't mind parting with. If they get damaged or if something happens to them, you can just go ahead and just toss them. So that's my second tip to use, to bring disposable sliders or slippers. Not the ones that you're going to use when you get to your destination or use for your bedroom, just ones that you're just willing to toss and throw away. It's just so much better that way, and it's more sanitary. Okay, and so here's my final tip to have a more comfortable, more enjoyable flight in general. And the number one, the number one tip I have to say is please remember to pack your patience. Okay, y'all, so I was watching the news this morning before I was getting ready to go to work, and I saw that because of the partial government shutdown, along with just TSA, limited TSA agents, those lines are long, like longer than typical. People were standing, I mean, going as far as the eye can see. They're actually recommending that people arrive to the airport 4 to 5 hours. One of the news outlets were saying to arrive to the airport 4 or 5 hours if you're going anywhere on a plane. And I'm going to tell you, those lines are really, really long. And I'm like, you have to be patient to deal with this. So no, this if you prepare beforehand, you will be okay. Know your gate that you're going to, have your boarding passport slash ID card available when you get ready to go to TSA. Have those stuff already available on hand. Listen out for any gate changes to your flight. Remember too, you got people, because this is still the tail end of the winter. People are still sick. So be mindful of sick people, delayed flights, for God's sakes, delayed flights, crying babies. They're just as cranky as you are. So you really got to learn how to pack your patience when traveling. Be flexible. As a matter of fact, when I went to Hawaii last year, before I went to Hawaii last year, there was an incident where they overbooked my Southwest is who I flew through. And there was an incident where they overbooked my flight. And they were taking volunteers to stay behind. And they gave us a sizable voucher for doing so. And I'm telling you, I couldn't get up to that front desk or that desk, ticket booth desk fast enough. And I actually took the voucher and I stayed behind and caught the next flight flying out of California to get to Hawaii. So like I said, pack your patience. You don't know, it may pay off in the end, it may not. But the bottom line to all this is that we want to get to our final destination safe and in one piece, and we want to be in our right minds, and we want to be calm when we do this. It's nothing worse than being upset when traveling and then you're getting to where you at and you're just cranky and agitated and just short patient. And I'm telling you, I don't have any patience for sure. I'm working on it, but it seems like it's not happening fast enough. But I'm telling you, see, right now I'm not patient about having patience. But the thing is I understand that delays happen. You want to probably have a little bit of change tucked to the side, because if you do get delayed and they can't get a flight out for you that day, you want to be able to make sure you have enough money to at least get a $50 hotel, an Airbnb, or something like that for the night, or whatever the case may be, just enough to get some rest until you can fly the next day, and just in case you can't get out that same day. So you got to be prepared for these things. And actually, when I travel, because I give myself so much time off, I actually try not to book anything the first day or two when I get to my destination, just in case I have delays. You just don't know what can happen. And right now, with everything that's going on in our country, that anything can be anything at any time. So you want to make sure that you pack your patience when you are traveling. Another little story is one time I remember I took a flight from Chicago, Illinois, all the way to the Southwest, and there was a baby crying the whole time there. That baby cried from the time we took off from Chicago till we landed at our final destination. And I'm telling you, that was like over 4 hours. So be mindful of things like that. Some parents, I don't know, they're probably reluctant to discipline their child. I don't know what it is with that, but be patient. When I went to Europe, I had a woman who was in front of me. She was just coughing her head off. She was sick. These are things that you have to be mindful of when traveling. If you don't have a lot of patience, or if you're not willing to do that, I recommend that you probably don't travel. And if you do, travel by car. I mean, you get to name your own price as far as when you want to stop and go to the bathroom, who you want driving, riding with you in the car. Maybe consider that. And from what they tell me, gas prices are getting high. So that's something else to also consider. So spring break is coming up, summer vacation is coming up, just people taking weekend trips coming up. Just be patient with everybody and everything. Everybody's going through a tough time right now, and I'm really trying to be understanding of that. I really try to pack my patience when traveling because I know things can pop off or change up at any time, and I try to be prepared for that. So, keeping that in mind, you would have a more enjoyable, comfortable trip, flight, or however means that you decide to get around. It's just something to think about a lot. Um, yeah, that's just how I feel about the whole traveling thing. I know people say they don't travel because of these things already, but I mean, I have such a wanderlust that I can't stop traveling because of little things like that. That in the moment it seemed like a very big deal and it seemed like no one is listening to you, even the ticket agents. But when you finish getting to where you need to be, you realize it's not that serious. Um, it's something to think about. If also too, if you don't want to risk the chance of losing luggage, you probably want to take a carry-on, so you don't have to deal with all these things. I mean, you can just grab your bag and go. That's why a lot of people like carry-ons. Me, I can't really use a carry-on. I gotta use the full luggage, but it is what it is. But yeah, those are my 5 tips for trying to have a more comfortable flight. That's sit to the furthest part of the plane. As inconvenient as it is, you probably want to sit to the further back of the plane. Charge all your electronic devices before you board. Wear loose and fitting clothing, and layered so you can take things off when you need to and add things on when you need to. Two, you want to bring disposable slippers, so you don't have to keep jumping in and out your shoes as much as possible. And number one is to pack your patience because you're going to really need it, especially when you're traveling during peak season, peak times. You want to go ahead and make sure you're a little bit patient with everybody else. People, you'll be surprised how people appreciate your patience when you're patient. And I've learned that over the years. So those are my 5 tips for you to have a comfortable flight. I wish everybody the best in any travels that they do this year. Pray for peace, pray for safety, and just pray for men and women in the military. They need our prayers more now than ever before. And just do right by each other, be kind to each other, and be patient with each other. Until next time, thank you for listening. You take care, and God bless.